Hello everyone, this is Unit 5, Day 4. Alright, and we're just going to be doing more with geometric sequence formulas. Okay, so in the first example, right, very similar to an exponential function, right? These are exponential in nature. So we've got to remember that, again, we're not concerned about, the terms in between for this function. We're just concerned about the first four numbers you get when you plug in 1, 2, 3, and 4 for x. Okay, so just to make it look like more what we're talking about, I'm going to rewrite it to make it look like that. Okay, and now we just substitute a 1, 2, 3, and 4 anywhere you see an n. Whoops. 5 times 2 to the fourth, right? So 2 to the first power is 2, 5 times 2 is 10, 2 to the second power is 4, 4 times 5 is 20, 2 to the third power is 8, 8 times 5 is 40, and 2 to the fourth power is 16, 16 times 5 is 80, right? And it appears, looks like we're multiplying by 2 each time. So our first four terms, voila. All right, so let's take a look at letter B. Okay, letter B, unfortunately, they don't give us any of the first four terms, not even one, right? So how in the heck do we handle this guy? Okay, let's think about this. All right, this is 128, which means, okay, to get from 1 to 2, multiplied by 2, 2 to 3, multiplied by 2, 3 to 4, multiplied by 2, multiplied by 2, and multiplied by 2, right? So in order to come up with our first four terms, right, we have to understand that, first off, this is how we got to that sixth term, right? We started with some number here, and then we multiplied it by 2, then we multiplied it by 2, then we multiplied it by 2, and multiplied it by 2, and then finally again multiplied it by 2. All right, so in retrospect, how many times did we multiply by 2 here? Technically 5. All right, now, so if we wanted to go back, right, I'm going to divide 128 by 2 5 times. Right, so 128 divided by 2, 64. Divided by 2, 32. Divided by 2, 16. Oops, multiplied by 2. Oops. Right, but I'm pretty sure we're confident with all those, right? Divided by 2 takes us down to 4. So here is our first four terms. Okay, but maybe you didn't like that method. So we got 2 to the fifth power, right? Well, that is equal to excuse me, 32. All right. And so we go 128 divided by 32, because you got to figure how many times we multiply that first term by 2. 5 times. So if we divide it by that amount, our last term, so 128 divided by 32, what do we end up getting? 4, which is our first term. And then you could count up that way. So no wrong way to eat a Reese's here, right? There's a couple ways you could solve that problem. All right, let's take a look at number 2. So find the nth term of the following geometric sequences algebraically and with calculator. Okay, so here we go. All right, so in this case here, all right, again, when they're talking about finding the nth term, we're talking about this equation right here. Okay? Talking about this guy right here. So in this case, right, our formula for the nth term is geometric, right? So you just got to remember the difference between both of those. In this case, it's telling us it's geometric, all right? So we know, right, the following geometric sequences, right? So just be careful down the road when you get mixed sequences. they don't always necessarily tell you what kind of sequence it is, right? So you just have to make sure you're reading the instructions, or be prepared to be able to decipher, right? So in this case, we wouldn't be able to decipher. So they just told us that, okay, our third term is 10, and our sixth term is 200. And 270. Okay. So let's think about this, right? We don't know what our ratio is, and we don't know what our first term is, right? So we're kind of dead in the water here. Not really, though, right? Otherwise, what would be the purpose of solving this? So let's think about what's going on here, right? So to get from here to here, we have to multiply by 4. And to get from here to here, multiply by 4, or by 4, by the, by the ratio. Let me swing this out here so it's a little smaller. There we go. All right, so, and then from here to here, multiplied by r, not 4, right? Our ratio, right? We don't know what our ratio is, but we do know that to get from the third to the fourth term, we have to multiply by that common ratio, fourth to the fifth term, multiply that ratio, and fifth to the sixth term, multiply that ratio. Okay, so what this is saying is 10 times r raised to the third power is equal to 270. Okay, so this term right here multiplied by r 3 times gets us to 270. Okay, and so we have to think about, all right, how do we solve this guy? And so luckily this is a multi-step problem here, so we treat it as is. Divide by 10. R cubed is equal to 227. Then raise it to the 1/3 power. R is equal to 3. We're not done here yet, though, right? Because we still don't know our first term. Okay. So now that we know what our common ratio is, well, to go back, we would just divide these terms by 3, right? Because to get from here to here was 3. To get from here to here, it had to have been 3. So to go back, we just divide by 3. So this is going to be 10/3. And this ends up being 10/9. So finally, shrink that down. Our first term is 10/9. Our ratio is 3. And so our equation is 10/9 times 3 raised to the n minus 1. Okay, so let's take a look at the next one. Okay, now, ignore this with the calculator part for now, okay? I'm going to practice that in class, so I'm not going to demonstrate it on the video here, so I will demonstrate that in class. So make sure you're comfortable with that, and if you're not, you have to bring that up in class, okay? It's important that you know how to do both, okay? Because it's a good backup plan. It's good to be able to check your answers, and so that's what being able to do regression on your calculator does, okay? Provides you that opportunity. So make sure when I'm going through it in class, right, you're either paying attention or, make sure you ask me, right? Hey, I don't know how you got that, okay? So 4374, all right? Now, same process as we did for the last one, right? So we don't know what our ratio is, and we don't know what our first term is, but we do know that whatever that ratio is, to get from our fourth to our fifth term, we're going to multiply that by that ratio. To get from our fifth to our sixth term, we again would multiply by that ratio. And then from sixth to our seventh term, again, multiply by that ratio. So, it's 162 times whatever that number is, 3 times will give us this number at the end. So divide by 162, divide by 162. You get r cubed is equal to 27 again, I believe. Let me check. 43, whoops. Cool. And then, again, r is just equal to 3. All right, so to find our nth term, that means I'm going to have to divide by 3, and then divide by 3. So I'm going to have to divide by 3 times in order to get back to that first one. So 162 divided by 3 gives me 54. Divided by 3 gives me 18. And divided by 3 gives me 6. So my answer, which I'll put in big red here, a sub n is equal to our first term, which is 6, times 3 raised to the n minus 1. Let's head down to example 3 and 4. Okay, so example 3 and 4. So how many terms are in the sequence 1, 2, 4, 8, all the way up to 128? Right? So what the question is asking here is how many terms are in the sequence? What term is 128? Okay? What term number? Now we know what these ones are, right? First term, second term, third term, fourth term, right? And also, we can also pick what our ratio is, right? Times 2, times 2, times 2. So, we can write the formula here. A sub n is equal to our first term times our ratio, which is 2, raised to the n minus 1. And then you have to use your calculator. Whoops, it's supposed to be a U. Use your calculator to figure out the rest. Right? So what do I mean by that? Right? Well, it's asking for what term number this is. Okay, so the easiest way to do that, change this to a y, 1 times 2, x minus 1, and put that into your calculator. Right? And so when you do, you get your x and y values. All right. And so what are those? Well, let's plug it into the y equals first. So 1 times 2 raised to the, in parentheses, x minus 1. And when you go to your table, these are the values you should see. And you should see your sequence, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? So at 1 we're at 1, 2 we're at 2, 3 we're at 4, 4 we're at 8, 5 we're at 16, 16 we're at 32, 7 we're at 64. I believe it's the next one. 8 is 128. So there is our answer, right? Because remember, our x values are kind of like our input, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So our 8th term in the sequence is 128. Okay? All right, the next one. Same sort of process, right? We don't know what our common ratio, oh, I'm sorry, back up. We don't know what this last term is here, right? So it's asking for what term number is this guy? Okay. So that being said, use the same process we did before, right? We know our first term, which is 24. Now it looks like we are multiplying by 0.5 each time, right? Or 1/2, right? However you want to represent that ratio is okay with me. I'm going to use 0.5 just because it looks kind of nicer. And then n minus 1. Okay, so you plug this into your calculator, your y equals, changes to an x minus 1. And by doing so, I'm just going to put a little bit of what the table looks like. All right. Okay, and then we scroll down and we're looking for 3 over 64. Now, 3 over 64 is the number, if you were to divide that out, it would be about 0.0468. Okay, and so we're going to scroll down here, and if you look, right at 7, we're at 0.375. At 8, we're at 0.1875. 9 at 0.09375, and then at 10, 0.04688. It's exactly what we were looking for. So what number term is that? So our 10th term is 3 over 64. Okay? And so that's the lesson for you. All right, be looking for the answer key for this. All right, I'll upload that into Teams. And for those of you that are watching this, hopefully this makes a little more sense. And any questions, you guys, make sure to bring this into class on Monday. Okay, have a good day, you guys.